The Grand Housing Plan, as it's called in the Irish Independent, the new strategy to do something about the appalling situation where many families are living in hotel rooms and cars, not a hope of getting a house. There's people who'll never have an income to get a house. There's so many different aspects to this. Do we have enough houses? Obviously not. Can we afford to build them? I don't know. Are the skills there to build them? There's a huge task that's facing everybody with this. Let's talk to local councillor Joe Behan, Independent. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Declan. How are you?
Good morning. Fine. Grand. On the ground in Wicklow, do we have land? Do we have builders? Do we have money? This thing of trying to get this housing list of 3,000 down, do we have the tools and means to do it?
Well, I suppose we do. The answer to some of your questions is yes, and in other cases it's no, or we'll have to wait and see. The first thing I'd say, obviously, is that I welcome the fact that the government has prioritised this issue, and it's welcome that a particular minister is taking full responsibility for it, and he's a cabinet minister rather than a junior minister, as has been the case in the past. That's good. The second thing that I welcome is the fact that they've allocated a reasonably large amount of money over the next 5 years. Mind you, a lot of it is not going to be spent until the latter part of the 5 years. People won't see very much progress over the next year or two. But locally, to get back to your point, the council owns land in certain parts of the county and has been over the last number of years, I suppose, working feverishly with the department to try and get funding to move those sites on. I have to say I compliment fully the staff in Wicklow County Council in the Bray office, and also obviously at headquarters in Wicklow, led by Joe Lane, the Director of Service, because they are definitely doing everything they possibly can to ensure that we draw down the funding that's available from the department, and we continue to look for further funding for future development. But I would say one thing: I don't want to pour cold water on the whole plan because there's so much praise for it, but I think one big lack in this plan, and it will be a complete change of vision, if you like, for the government to do this, but I am very sorry that they didn't do it, which is that I think we should restore direct labour units to the county councils. Like in the past, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there would have been people employed directly by the council who had building qualifications, block layers, carpenters, plumbers, electricians and so on. And I would far have preferred to see each council setting up their own house building unit and getting the money directly from the department and having full control over the development of these housing estates. And
how many people would you have employed to do that? Because you
will be employing hundreds, Declan, and maybe for a 5-year period.
Okay, so there's a...
No, I'm saying, you'd have to have
a contract.
Let's say a 5-year social housing project. It would give us far more control. It would give much needed employment and perhaps introduce again proper apprenticeships for younger people who might want to start in the building trade, because everybody who's anybody at the top of this tree seems to think that the housing market at the moment is dysfunctional. It's broken. It's not working. And in fact, I think much more thought should have been given to the idea of direct provision of social housing by councils. I mean, the other big factor in all of this is that a lot of the money that's been allocated will actually go into the hands of private developers and landlords, because most of the money being spent nowadays is being spent on rent allowance, which is a direct subsidy to landlords to provide rented accommodation. But we never own the houses. The public never own the houses. The people never own the houses. But yet the taxpayers are paying for them.
And have we got many empty houses around the county?
We do have a number, not as many. I mean, a lot of work has been done by Breach Kilkenny, who's the senior engineer in the housing section, in getting what they call voids, which are empty, vacant units, up and running again. There are about 8 or 10 in Old Court, which is a specific case because of the fact that we're waiting for the department to give us funding to continue the refurbishment scheme in Old Court. And these houses are being kept, if you like, for people to decant while their house is being done. I'm certainly hoping that we're going to hear word on that very soon, because if not,
at the same time, Joe, that is the normal system. This seems to be the super normal that we're you don't announce a strategy to continue the way you were doing it. So this has to be on top of that. So back to it. Do we have the land? Do we have the builders? Do we have the building staff? Where's all these people? Is there a task force? Is the A-team coming in to build all the houses into Wicklow?
Well, there is a task force and an A-team operating in county buildings, and they're the people I've mentioned: Joe Lane, Breach, Kilkenny, Jackie Carroll, Tree Nerby and Bray, and all of the other staff who are there doing absolutely everything they can to get everything up to the department for approval. Everything still has to go through the department, Declan. This is the thing that very often isn't realised. The council are not complete masters of their own destiny. We do own land. We own land in all parts of the county, and in fact, the two recent projects that were passed by Wicklow County Council, one in Rathrome and one in Bray, are sites that the council own themselves. Now, obviously, we will have to look for more land in the future, and I'm quite sure that's what the Director of the Service will be doing. But we've also increased and updated the qualifications, or the number of people who are technically qualified in architecture and so on in the housing section, so that we can do some more in-house design ourselves, and that's very welcome. But we need more of those staff as well, Declan.
Yeah, and of course we want to not just throw up these houses and then come a few years and they'll be back to us about fire hazards and all sorts of things. So, but at the same time, you don't want it to be overcomplicated with bureaucracy and all sorts of building.
No, that's why I'm saying a direct grant to each local authority, where we would go ahead and employ the building staff, would actually be a far better, quicker solution and a more long-term sustainable solution. But while I'm on deck, I think this is very important, because there may well be people listening to this topic who are on the housing list. Okay, as we know, there are thousands of people in Wicklow on the housing list, and they will have got a letter in the last few days from Wicklow County Council about the social housing assessment, and that effectively is every 2 or 3 years the council writes to every applicant asking them to confirm that they still have a housing need and they want to stay on the housing list. And they must return their form by Friday the 29th of July, so they don't have very long to do it. And it's very, very important, if they've changed address and haven't given their new address to the council, that they get in touch with the council with the new address and get the form filled up. That's essential, because if not, they'll be taken off the list.
Yeah, but that's bureaucracy. They'd still be homeless.
Yeah, well,
it's just because you're not on the list officially with some bureaucratic way of signing a paper. You're still out there looking for a home.
Oh, I accept that, and the council has has a working relationship itself. It has a homeless officer, a person by the name of Nolene Roach, who's doing Trojan work in Wicklow County Council, but we're also aided by the Simon community. And they've got a very, very detailed knowledge of the number of people who are homeless in various parts of the county, and are working with them on a daily basis. So they're not going to be forgotten in this. I'm really talking about people who may have moved house or may not have got the letter, and if they don't reply, unfortunately, yes, it is bureaucratic, but again, it's imposed by the Department of the Environment. This is not just the council coming up with this plan. The department insists on this because this is how they come up with their figures of people on the housing list nationally. So if you don't reply, you could be taken off the list, and I've many, many times had to plead people's cases to get back on the list because for some reason they weren't aware this assessment was going on. So just using the opportunity that I have today just to remind people to please get those forms back.
All right, no doubt we'll talk about this great plan again. Thanks very much indeed. That is Cllr Joe Behan, Independent on Wicklow County Council.